Hey, what up, fellow gamers? BC from Alloy 7 video here, and I want to address something I've been hearing a lot since the original unveiling of the Xbox One during Microsoft's event. Many people on the internet, a lot of YouTube personalities such as myself and different gaming community folks have kind of made this comment back before Microsoft rescinded its retarded policies. And I agree with you that those policies were ridiculous. But before that happened, many people were saying, well, Microsoft, we want to own our games and you're stopping us from doing this. No, they're not. They're not stopping you from owning jack. Even with those policies, if they had not rescinded those policies, they weren't stopping you from owning a thing. The fact of the matter is you do not own your games. You've never owned your games. What you've owned, as I'm going to show here very shortly, what you've owned is a license to use the software that you purchased. That's what your $60 purchased, a license to use the software that somebody else owns. And in this case, that somebody else is the copyright owner, usually the publisher or the game developer themselves. So I'm going to be reading from Rockstar Games End User License Agreement, or EULA. Specifically, it talks about license. Subject to this agreement and its terms and conditions, licensor, in this case Rockstar Games, hereby grants you the non-exclusive, non-transferable, limited right and license to use one copy of the software for your personal non-commercial use or for gameplay on a single computer or gaming unit, unless otherwise specified in the software documentation. Your acquired rights are subject to your compliance with this agreement. The term of your license agreement starts or commences the day that you purchased this license, or you went to GameStop and bought the game, and it ends either when you violate this agreement or when the licensor, in this case Rockstar Games, terminates the license agreement, meaning they could terminate your rights to use this game even though you've spent your $60. But let's jump into the ownership part of this EULA. So ownership, licensor, in this case Rockstar Games, retains all right, title, and interest to the software. They own it. Rockstar Games owns Grand Theft Auto 4. They own Grand Theft Auto 5. You do not own it. You've never owned it. And I know this is kind of semantical. It's me splitting hairs a bit, but I want us to get our language correct. When we get mad at Microsoft for coming up with retarded policies, let's keep our anger focused on those retarded policies. Not saying things like your retarded policies are keeping me from owning my games. No, they're not. You've never owned your games. It says specifically, and if you look at Ubisoft, if you look at Namco, Bandai, any of these other major publishers, the ownership section of their EULA is very similar to what you see here, that the licensor retains the right, title, and interest to the software. And this includes, but it's not limited to, all copyrights, trademarks, trade secrets, trade names, proprietary rights, patents, titles, computer codes, and here we go. Audio-visual effects, themes, characters, character names, stories, dialogue, settings, artwork, sound effects, musical works, and moral rights. They own the game. They own it. What you own is a license to play the game and use the game for your non-commercial use. You also own the disc, the 8-cent disc it was printed on. You also own the box to the game and the booklet that came with it. That's what you own, folks. It wasn't Microsoft that was keeping you from owning games, even though I agree that their policies, and thankfully they've rescinded them, were retarded. Bottom line is you've never owned your games, folks. So keep that in mind when you're fighting against the powers that be. Let's get our language correct. So hope you guys enjoyed this one. Hope you found it helpful and informative. As always, appreciate the likes and the subscribes. And until our next video, allow me to say to you, peace and Godspeed.
Alloy